So we've talked about absolute value equations before, and we all know that when you take the absolute value of a -3, you get 3, because we're all used to this rule that an absolute value of a negative number becomes positive. But I want you to understand more than that, because the reason absolute value of -3 equals 3 is because what you're asking, what you're trying to find out is how far away from 0 is -3. If you were to walk from -3 to 0, you would walk 3 units. And that's why you get a positive 3, because you always walk, or distance is always positive. Even if I was on the other side, if I was to walk from 3 to 0, I would be walking 3 units, because distance is positive. So when I say that the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 6, what I'm saying is, if I have a number line and I'm at 0, I'm saying that I am 6 away, because that's where that is. I'm 6 away from 0. So I could be at 6, or I could be -6. And the thing that is 6 away is this x plus 2. X plus 2 is 6 away from 0. So x plus 2 could be at 6, or x plus 2 could be at -6. So then what we do about that is we have two different equations, because I have two different spots on the number line. So I'm going to come up with two different equations. Either x plus 2 equals 6, so I write x plus 2 equals 6, or x plus 2 equals a -6. So I have two different answers. I go through and solve them like I normally would. And then I have both answers of 4 and -8. So I get two answers for that equation, 4 and -8, because they're both 6 away from 0, whether I'm at 6 or -6. So I have to count for both 6 and -6. So let's look at another example. Here's one. I have a little bit more going on. If I look at my number line, I could be at 15, or I could be at -15. And that means that 2x minus 5 is at 15, or 2x minus 5 is at -15. So I have two equations. Frustrating. Okay, 2x minus 5 equals 15, or 2x minus 5 equals -15. Then I go ahead and solve both of them. Add 5. So then 2x equals 20, divide by 2, x equals 10. Or over here I add 5, and I get 2x equals -10, divide by 2, x equals -5, and there's my two answers. So then the only other thing that you might find to be different is, what if you have the absolute value, but then you also have this extra thing here that's not inside the absolute value, it's not in here, it's out here, but it's still on the left side of the equal sign, or on the same side of the equal sign. Well, what you have to do is you have to get it so that it's the absolute value by itself. Get rid of the 5 first. You can't take care of the absolute value until it's by itself. Okay, so now I get the absolute value equals 9. Now I can look at my number line, put a 9 and a -9, and I can say that 2x minus 7 is at 9, or 2x minus 7 is at -9. Now I can separate into two separate equations. 2x minus 7 equals 9, or 2x minus 7 equals -9. And then I start solving. So I'll add 7. I get 2x equals -2, divide by 2. X equals -1. Over here I add 7 to both sides, so I get, oops, I thought that was a -9. This should be a positive 16. Divide by 2, I get it's a positive 16, so I get a positive 8. Oof, that's a mess. And then over here, when I add 7, I get 2x equals -2. Divide by 2, x equals -1. So there's my two answers, 8 and -1.